All right, thanks so much. Nice to be here this morning. But we'll dive right into it. With a name like Power Nickel, we're obviously going to talk about nickel today and our quest to build Canada's next low carbon, high grade nickel mine. So where does that quest begin? Well, it begins in the province of Quebec. Quebec is arguably the best jurisdiction in the world right now to be exploring for minerals. The reason I would say that, it's West Australia or Quebec in my mind. But the reason why I think Quebec's wins is that they have an amazing fiscal regime there now that, among other things, allows you to, as an investor, if you put $1 in, it becomes $2 magically in Quebec. I'll explain how that works. But inside Quebec, basically we're in northern Quebec. So when you're looking at the map there, that's a picture of James Bay to the left, where much of the hydroelectric power that has powered the eastern seaboard of Canada and the United States for the last 100 years comes from. And within that region, we're down here, just where you see the arrow, the NISK project over here, and basically we're immediately off of what's called Route North, and it's a major 3 and 4 lane highway. Right across the road from us is a major Hydro-Quebec substation. So we're literally, you drive off the road to the site, and across the road from the site is a major Hydro-Quebec substation. So infrastructure is fantastic, but we're about 8 kilometers from an airport. The Nemaska lithium mine is being commissioned as we speak, just down the road from us, about another 6 or 7 clicks away. And there's 3 or 4 mines being built in the immediate sort of 50-kilometer radius. So really great logistics in terms of creating mines. And why does that happen? Well, generally happens because there's community support. So Quebec government's done a really great job of educating the local communities as to the benefits of mining. And they've also done a really great job working with the Aboriginal partners, in this case, the Cree, and helping them to establish businesses that we can use. And so we've been able to sort of use a number of Cree services as we're proving up this project. So that's where we're located in Quebec. All of the great locations and the fiscal terms and incentives are fantastic, but they're not worth a hill of beans if you don't have an ore body. So it all starts there and pretty much ends there. So we acquired this nickel deposit about 2.5 years ago or so. And at the time, prior to nickel's big run, and we liked it because it had 3.1 million tons of effectively 1.6% nickel EQ or so. And we felt that was, very compelling. Generally speaking, these projects become commercial at sort of in the 8 to 10 million ton range. Obviously, you want as many tons as possible, but when you start with a discovery like that, you're already 40% of the way there, and that was a real incentive for us to get going on it. So we acquired it, and then we thought, okay, let's see if it in fact is a really valid resource. So our first drilling program, after we modeled the deposit for the first time electronically 3D, we basically drilled 8 holes about 18 months ago. 7 of the 8 hit, really phenomenal hit rate, and again, very compelling intercepts and discoveries, sort of again keeping in line with the 1.5 to 1.5 to 1.6% nickel EQ. Validated that. Stock had a pretty good run. We had financed it the summer before at 25 cents and 40 cents hard in flow, and then stock ran to 30 cents. We thought we're going to have a breakout, and then it's Canada, so the shorts come in and bashed it back. So what do? Well, we sort of looked at it and said, hey, look, we've got a major discovery. We've got some capital. We called in some warrants, and we said, let's set out a major program to make this thing commercial. And once that gets commercial, then the market will take care of itself. So we basically our model as of the time was that we had about 5 million tons, 43-101. It's still coming, but that was what we had internally modeled, and we devised this 30,000 meter program to sort of prove this up. And then we started drilling in September of last year, and basically had great results. So we have published 5 of the 14 holes that we have produced so far, and they've had some really good success rates. Our best hole to date was a 40-meter hole, 150 meters away from the nearest resource. and down dip, and it was 40 meters of about 1.6% nickel EQ, and that's one of the top 5 holes in nickel anywhere in the world last year. So it's an amazing hole, and probably won't be our best, is my guess. We've got 2 or 3 others coming that will certainly be in the running for that. The interesting thing when you're drilling nickel is you certainly get a feel for how you're doing as you're drilling, because you're targeting a very distinct color of rock. It's a black peridotite rock, and you're hitting it, basically based upon your modeling. You know it's charged if you have an XRF machine, so you get a pretty good sense of if you're able to, hit the ore, what type of ore it is, and how good it might be. So our feeling is that with the drilling that we've done and that we continue to do, we started to drill again in January, and we'll probably keep on drilling through April. At that point in time, we'd expect to update our 43-101 and a full new metallurgical study, and we'd expect to go somewhere between 8 to 10 million tons. So that would make us commercial, and that's a significant milestone. And I draw attention to this. This is sort of I think the mic drop table, because if you believe that we are going to get to 8 to 10 million tons, and are certainly, we think the data supports that, and we actually publish all of our drill collar data so people can actually model this and leapfrog themselves and sort of get a sense that, hey, these guys are not fooling around. So if you think we're going to get to this 8 to 10 million tons in the next 6 months, which we believe, then all of a sudden you're going to be comparable to these other, what I would call nickel sulfide stories in the world. These are what I would say would be the market for nickel sulfide discoveries elsewhere, everywhere from northern Canada to Australia to Botswana. And generally speaking, you're going to get about 50 million a ton for this type of ore. Some more, some less, but generally in that range. So obviously, if we get to that range, then this thing is significantly misvalued right now, or undervalued, and we could expect to have a significant revaluation. And that revaluation is going to happen as we continue to release, I guess, assays, and people become aware of the story. I think we've been generally a very under communicated story, and that's why we're doing shows like this, to get the word out and show people what we got, and have them do the research and come to the same conclusion that we have done, that we're on the verge of having Canada's next nickel mine. There's a number of ways to get paid in this business. Obviously, you have to find more ore, so we're on the verge of doing that, and then you ultimately got to get paid more for your ore. So I think it's sort of one comes with the other. When we prove the tonnage is sort of in the 8 to 10 million range, and that's the start, then you're going to get paid much more. Right now, we're getting about 10 cents a pound of nickel in the ground, and our competitors are getting $1. So if you triple, the ore that we found, and then you get paid, competitively for it, well, that makes for an amazing multiple. And as they say, wait, there's more. Every nickel sulfide mine in the world is basically multiple pod. So that means that there's more than one sort of pit, really. And generally speaking, they're sort of in the 3 to 5 range. So we've got this one pod, which is really amazing. That's going to be sort of in the, as we say, probably 8 to 10 million tons, enough to be commercial. But we surely don't think this will be the only one, unless we're an anomaly. This will be the first time in history if this happens. And how are we going to find the other pods? Well, in addition to doing traditional stuff like gravity and seismic, we're going to do something pretty innovative. We're going to employ a technology from Fleet Technologies out of Australia. They basically have what's called ambient noise technology, and we came across it by watching, Talon Metals, which is a very fine nickel project in Minnesota and Michigan, right on straddling the border in the United States. And they have a great nickel project there that they're developing, and they announced that they were using these guys to help them find more nickel. And so obviously, if you're, you want to follow people that are successful and see how they're doing. And so when we checked out, the technology, we were quite impressed. And I brought it to my technical team, because I'm not a technical person. I'm more the storyteller, financier. And the technical team basically, after a lot of due diligence and review, concluded that this technology could be very helpful. So basically, what it does is they put like little, I would call them, they look almost like little landmine type of geodes is what they call them, and they put them on your project, and then they send sort of pulses into the ground, and they reflect back, and they gather that data, and that data, these sound waves are basically interpreted and enabled to build a 3D visualization within almost within 4 days of being sort of on the site. How they correlate that is they take, it's particularly effective if you've already got existing deposit, as we do, which has been drilled and obviously assayed, and so we'll have very definitive correlation that they can look at their data, cross-reference it with our hard science, and then that helps them build a 3D model of the project, and basically we think that with that we'll be able to see more detail on the actual project itself for the first pit, the first pod, so to speak. And then what's neat is that it does a couple other things. One, if there's any deeper zones like underneath our current deposit, we'll get to see that, because it actually gets to see down to 2,000 meters. And then the other thing it does is it allows us to sort of look at those signatures and then look at our rest of our 45 square kilometers for other pods. So this will help us vector in very quickly, we think, for the other pods, and then we can still augment that with seismic and gravity as well. And that should really make the discovery and the development of these pods much more efficient and environmentally friendly. So it's really a great approach, and it's a pretty clear path. So for NISK, we're basically continuing to release drill results. We'll have drill results out just before PDAC, which is sort of early March, and we'd expect to have some good news in there. We're funded to sort of continue drilling probably through the end of April, and then at that point we'll be looking to update our 43-101 and towards the end of June, maybe early July. And then after that, we would obviously be the geodes we were talking about, the fleet technology, the seismic, the ambient noise technology, that would be done in late May, June, and establish our targets for what would be our next drill program in starting in July, and that would be sort of 15,000 meters plus. That we'd look to drill as we continue to grow this ore body. So we're funded sort of through the first 3 steps, and then step 4 and 5 we'll have to add some additional capital, but by then we'll have obviously got a pile of news out, and we'd look to at least close the gap pretty significantly on our valuation. So that should be good for our shareholders. The other point I would make with Power Nickel is we have some pretty significant other assets. Generally speaking, I would say if you're an investor, you'd buy it because you love the nickel asset. That being said, you're going to like the fact that we've got some nice bonuses for you, and the bonuses are pretty substantial. We have some pretty amazing gold and copper exploration plays. They were the basis for the company before I acquired NISK, and we used to trade at or around these levels at that point in time. So you're getting something for free today, either the nickel deal or the copper and gold. And how we're going to get those out to you? Well, we're going to spin out fairly shortly. We'll announce a spin out of these projects, and that'll become a separate public company. Power Nickel will be the core shareholder. Our shareholders will be the minority shareholders, and there'll be some outside capital brought in to advance it further on down the continuum. This project in particular is called Golden Ivan. It's right in the heart of the Golden Triangle. The yellow space on your screen here, that's us. That's literally the top, that's the mountain that overlooks the town of Stewart, which is where the Golden Triangle starts. It's never been drilled. This area over here in the gray, that's Ascot, who's building a mine right there. So just a couple kilometers away. So it's always a good sign. And interestingly enough, we've had some amazing sampling results on the project, half-ounce gold at surface 3 different occasions. and Strike Point Gold, which is immediately on our border. Their best results are right on our border, and that was 2 ounces of gold. So very, this was going to be the flagship had I not discovered NISK, but it's a great asset, and we think there's going to be some interesting opportunities within. What's that worth? Probably it's worth sort of 10 to 15 to $20 million, something in that range right now. And then we'll see where it goes, because obviously these things can be quite explosive. The Chile package is very desirable. We have 3 separate packages in Chile between 4 and 8,000 hectares. That's think of it the size of the city of the Toronto. It's a mammoth. That's a lot. That's a lot of ground. Now, when you look at that map, you'll see that it looks like desert, because in fact we are in the Atacama Desert. Now, that's a challenge for exploration. So we've done a fair bit of exploration down there historically. We used to be called Chilean Metals, so we've been in Chile for 20 plus years, and getting these land packages is extremely difficult. So we've kept them. We didn't do a lot of exploration the last couple of years while they're going through their political issues, but now that seems to be resolved, and they're being more progressive, with maintaining their long track record of being a fine jurisdiction for mining. So what's interesting here is that the same technology we're using to discover nickel, in Quebec, the fleet technologies there. One of the things that they've done successfully in West Australia, which is also a desert environment, is they've been successful discovering copper and lithium in the desert. And what's neat about that is there's a particular mineral in desert sands called caliche, and caliche is sort of like a mineralized limestone. And one of its issues is it basically obstructs gravity and seismic sensors and data, and so it doesn't give you as good a clean data as you'd like to have to put together regional drill plans. So this Fleet Technologies is able to see through the caliche and give you a clean look. So that could be a game changer for Chile. So we're looking quite forward to bringing this project forward with the Fleet Technologies ambient noise technology sometime in the late summer next fall. So the only other asset to speak of that's pretty significant, we have a 3% royalty on a project that we sold to Teck for $3 million plus this royalty. It had 100 million tons of ore grade material that would be enough to be a mine right now, and they still hadn't discovered the supergene, so there's a lot of potential for that. We thought it would be in production by now, honestly, and they, when the downturn hit, they mothballed QB1 and put it into QB2, which is Teck's big new mine in Chile. This will probably be QB3, the core of it, and so this will be a very lucrative royalty. We're looking at some bids on it right now, so that may be something that will be transacted and create some immediate cash for the company that we would have to dilute NISK less. And while we love the royalty, getting $5 million plus for this would be US would be certainly a bona fide win for us at this point in time. The management team is pretty lean. Just we've kept our focus on putting the money in the ground. So it's just myself and Jimena in Chile, our operating people. My board members are quite experienced. Greg was a MD at Haywood, major investment bank in Canada. Peter's a retired, very experienced lawyer, and Les, a very experienced businessman. Let's look at the cap table. So basically 120 million shares, generally speaking, more or less fully, that's what's out there today. On the makeup of my family and I own about 20%. We were the biggest investors in the last round. We raised $4.2 million in November. And this is where that Quebec, benefit came in. Stock was 10 cents when we announced the round, and we ended up raising 70% of the round at 20 cents with this charity flow through buyback. And what happens on that is a Quebec-based investor puts money in at 20 cents. And in this case, myself and many of these large principal shareholders of Power Nickel bought it back at 10 cents. So we were invested at 10. The company got 20 to work with. The investor who put the money in at 20, they saw their tax rate go from 55% to 42%, and they're out of the deal. So everyone wins, and the government's achieved their objective, getting more money invested in finding critical minerals. So that's what's available in Quebec, and certainly that's what we'll take advantage of going forward. So pretty significant opportunity. Right now, about these 5 people, the Lynch family, Critical Elements, who we acquired the project from, and they're our partner. We've earned the rights to 80% of this now. They own 20%, in addition to being a significant shareholder. Critical has a very fine lithium project in Quebec, fairly close to us. The Stern family were the original people that brought me on board many years back. And BT Global and Palace Capital are our institutional shareholders at the moment, both very supportive and both very successful, the top 1-year and top 5-year fund in the country, respectively. So, and the board has 4%. So pretty solid shareholder group. To wrap it up and then go to some questions, basically, we think we've made a major nickel sulfide discovery at NISK in Quebec. We've sort of demonstrated why we think we're at a fairly major discount to our peer group, and why that's likely to change as this news gets reflected out and as we update our 43-101. We're fully funded to continue the drilling, and we're reporting on this drilling, so it's sort of a action-packed program that's going to get news out there, and that tends to help with stock momentum. The modeling suggests that we're on the verge of some really good success here, and it's not likely to be just one pod. It's likely to be multiple pods. This is an ultramafic deposit. So the other ultramafic deposits in Canada were Lynn Lake, 22 million tons, and Voisey's Bay, which is over 50. So our scientists believe we'll be between 20 to 50 million tons, and that would definitely make us $1 billion company. So, given we're like 30 million or so right now, that's obviously a tremendous upside potential. Couldn't be in a better sector than battery metals, nickel in particular, especially North American nickel, because of the Inflation Reduction Act. Basically, in the U.S., if you're a vehicle manufacturer and you want to give a full subsidy to your people that buy your car, it starts at 40% North American content, and within 5 years it's 90%. Well, you can't get to 90% if you don't have North American nickel. There's just not enough of it. So we're really super attractive, and we're getting lots of calls from downstream nickel buyers that want to come up and build the plant and joint venture with us. It's really quite amazing. So it really I couldn't think of a better metal to be in and a better position. And then obviously we're going to spin off our copper gold. We're quite excited with the potential that that's got, especially with this new technology. And we think we're sort of primed and ready to go and have a phenomenal year in 2023. So wanted to leave some time for some questions and turn it over to our host.
Excellent, Terry. Thank you very much. So far, there are no questions in the chat, so the audience is welcome to post any questions. I have some for you, if you're right for that. So how important or complicated is the metallurgy for nickel projects?
Yeah, metallurgy is always important in every mining project, and it's important for nickel as well. So we had some historic metallurgical results in around the 70% range, and that was done more than 10 years ago. And so in order to be current for 43-101 purposes, you have to update that. We were planning to do that anyway, just to apply the new technologies, and we've hired XPS, which is probably the world leader in nickel metallurgy. It's owned by Glencore, and we expect to have a full new metallurgical report out by the end of April, and that'll be part of our 43-101, and we'd expect to get have no problems in getting very good metallurgical results here with this ore body. We don't see anything challenging here.
Excellent. And the spin-off seems very interesting. Can you give us some more details about that?
Yeah, we'll hope to announce that shortly. Generally speaking, our view is that sole purpose companies in mining are the best. So people don't, we're not BHP, we're Power Nickel, very small micro cap. So we're going to focus on NISK and create value by advancing that to become a mine. And then we think by our copper gold projects, finally it looks like there's going to be a copper gold exploration market, and we think there's some great ways to advance that going forward. So we'll spin it out. Probably what happens is, generally speaking, without speaking specifically about the thing, probably the spin-off would be owned 70%, 60-70% by Power Nickel, 20-30% by our shareholders, and 10% would be new cash that would come in that would advance that company forward to do more exploration using the fleet technologies, etc. and that would be the take on its life of its own. And that's probably the best way to do it. That way you don't overwhelm the new public co with massive stock at the start. You sort of restrict it so it gets its own feet, and then has its own sort of chance to tell its story, and then go from there. So that would be the way we would think it would happen for our shareholders. We'll do that, probably approve it at the annual meeting in May, and use a plan of reorganization, which is sort of a legal tactic to spin this out in early July, probably would be my timeline.
And lately, the share price is rising. Are there any more important investors coming on board, or how can you?
Yeah, we've had a number of really great investors come on board in the last while. Can't disclose them at the moment right now, but hopefully soon. And I think we've been, people say, oh well, I've missed it. Went from 10 cents to 30 cents, and I'm saying, guys, we raised money at 25 cents in 2021. When nickel was still $4, and we hadn't validated the 43-101, and now nickel's $12 or whatever it is today. We validated the 43-101, shown you've got a mine, and we're barely back above 25 cents. We're like, I don't know, 30 cents or 32 or whatever. This has got a long ways to go. And if you look at our peers, this thing should be trading, in my mind, like a $200 million market cap right now, and we're like 30. So this is me. Of course, I'm a massive shareholder who wrote a big check the last round, so I'm preaching from my own church. But I think this is very early days for Power Nickel.
Yes, my colleague reminded me that last time you were on the IIF, we discussed the issue with the raise of nickel on the LSE. Are the troubles behind us, or are the markets still under pressure?
Yeah, I mean, the LME is certainly still having some struggles, I think. I think that whole short situation destabilized it, and they're still working through it. And then you add on the complications of the whole Russian situation with Norilsk and what's happening there. It's certainly tightened up. The way I understand the nickel market, and we've gotten learned on it over the last couple of years, is there's really three nickel markets. There's China, Europe, and North America. So in China, you have a surplus at the moment of Class 1, and a fairly healthy surplus of Class 2 and recycled nickel. Generally, that's because their construction industry was shut down because of COVID. Now that's changing, and I think nothing in China is ever going to come back to the Western markets anyway. That'll be consumed there, but that's the current situation in China. In Europe and North America, in both cases, they're both tight for Class 1 nickel. And so Class 1 nickel is what you need to really make batteries. It's not cost efficient to go from Class 2 to batteries. It's generally Class 1 nickel. And then on the Class 2 nickel, which is generally speaking to you, if you look at what is nickel used for, 70% of nickel is used for stainless steel. So Class 2 nickel is used to do that. So that's sort of reasonably in balance, both in Europe and in North America. Generally speaking, right now, cars or electrification make up about 10% of the nickel market. So 10 million cars were sold last year. They expect within 4 years that'll be up to 40 million cars. So the expectation is that by shortly you'll be at 50% of nickel demand will be for batteries. I don't know if that'll be possible, just because nickel is just not easy to find and not economic. So, but there's nickel, the price curve looks amazing, especially Class 1 nickel in North America. So we've really got a great commodity that we're in at the moment, I think.
Harry, thank you very much. The time is up.
All right, thank you.